My ex used me to have a baby and no one knows I'm a father. The woman I'm with now is the absolute love of my life and I have told her everything from my drug abuse in the past to my deepest secrets, but she doesn't know that I'm technically a father. Her and I even said neither one of think we ever want to have kids of our own simply because we don't want the responsibility and it's just not something we are interested in. Nothing against kids, just not for us. About 3 years ago now I, 23 at the time, had gotten together with a woman, 21, who was poly and I knew I wasn't the only one she was with at the time and I was okay with that, but I is certainly the most serious relationship she had at the time. When her and I had gotten together she already had a 2-year-old daughter who was and is the most adorable little girl I have ever met, funny and sweet and honestly one of the smartest little girls I've ever met, and I was more than willing to play step-dad to this little gem simply because I was falling in love with her mother. I would drive 2 hours one way just to go and see this woman and spend time with this little family I was kind of a part of now. I knew this woman wanted another child eventually, but she told me she understood I wasn't ready to have one of my own but that I was more than willing to be a stepfather to the one she already had. I just wasn't mentally prepared to take that step and I definitely wasn't financially ready either. For a while things were okay, and she was happy with me, or at least it seemed that way anyway. Progressively the sex got more and more intense between us until she couldn't keep her hands off of me, and for the most part we used condoms because she had to be really comfortable with a guy before she would have sex without one, and I was more than okay with that. We only ever had sex without maybe 4 to 5 times, and each time she told me to pull out, which I would, even though she said she was on the pill, better to be safe, right? But the last time we had sex without one she wrapped her legs around me and wouldn't let me go. After we finished I asked what that was all about and she just said, I must have gotten caught up in the moment, so I brushed it off. The next day I had to head home, so I got up and said my goodbyes to her and her daughter and headed home. After that she started acting a little different and things seemed off. The next time I seen her, I told her I'd help her move. I went up to help her pack and move into her new place, but she would barely look at me, let alone touch me, but I took it as she was stressed with having to move. Again after the weekend I went home but didn't hear from her for about 4 days, and when she finally did message me back she told me she was pregnant. I have to admit, I panicked if I'm being honest, but I told her I would do what it took to be there for them and that I would find a way to provide for them, but this is when I realized what had happened. She told me that I was off the hook, she was fully prepared to do everything herself, she didn't want anything from me. The only reason she told me was because, in her words, my sister said you should at least know about it. She used me to have that second child that she wanted, and she used my sperm to do so without my consent. I thought I was overthinking it at first until after the whole ordeal. According to her she didn't need me, and she is ready to do it all. She told me she didn't even want me there when he was born. Surprisingly she gave me updates throughout the pregnancy and even sent me a few pictures after he was born. But after he turned 6 months old I asked if I could one day meet my son. She said, I don't think you'll ever meet him, and she's blocked me on everything since. Other than the mother of my child I've never met, Reddit is the only one to know that she used me to have a child without my consent. Is that a form of someone taking sexual advantage of another? 3 years on and I still don't know how to feel about it all. I just had to get it off my chest one way or another.
I, 25 male, am in love with my sister-in-law, 24 female. Should I tell her? Some background info. I did not have a happy home growing up, which has led me to being closed off and anxious. I did my best to protect my younger brother, but when I was 18 I left and started doing whatever jobs for work. I moved into a tiny place with a mate and started trying to be a human. Met a girl at a party, hooked up, then she found out she was pregnant. We started dating. When she didn't want to terminate, I would be a better father than mine, so was willing to put in the effort, but we never clicked. Unfortunately, about 6 months after our son, K, was born, his mother passed in a drunk driving incident. It was hard, but our relationship was more co-parenting and I felt guilty for a long time that I wasn't more upset. That there was something wrong with me. Her parents are great, though, and paid for therapy for me. I assured them their grandson would always be in their life. I needed the help, and our relationship is rock solid. I call them my parents now more often than not. My younger brother moved out at 17 and dated his GF, call her D. She soon found out she was pregnant with twins right before the courthouse wedding. As a result, her parents disowned her, wild religious zealots, according to D, but then, they found they were having twin girls. My brother started acting like our father, talking about how only losers and queers doesn't raise girls, and he would be a real man and raise boys. There was no violence, but when Dee refused to get an abortion, she was about 5 months in by this point, he just packed his stuff overnight and disappeared. I have since heard he went either to Victoria or Northern Territory, not sure which. Well then Dee, now 5 months pregnant, had no job and no family. Her parents refused to talk to her. I had a house by this point, result of a workers' comp suit to give me enough for a solid deposit, and Kay was too, so I offered her the spare room. She took it and started living with us while she tried to figure stuff out. That was about 4 years ago, we kinda just started living together. Our living situation is, I work full-time, Dee is planning to start working when the kids are all in school. I told her that was fine years ago, and she has been doing all the housework, with exception of dishes, which I am happy to do. She cooks, takes care of all 3 kids, takes Kay to see his grandparents, and keeps the house clean. I know she does love the idea of being a stay-at-home mom. She and the girls sleep in the master bedroom. I took the spare bedroom after the girls were born. Her daughters, Elle and M, are beautiful. Elle took a lot more from my side of the family and looks a bit like me. The way they call me Uncle Jay when they want something or are trying to be sweet is too adorable. I take them both and Kay to any events. Dee does the same and treats Kay like a mother would. She took them all to a Bunnings that was doing a Bluey event a while ago and they absolutely loved it. Mostly, we all go out places together like a family would. My son Kay calls Elle and M his sisters, and they have been calling him brother. I am sometimes mistaken for their father at play groups and such, and have to confirm I am their uncle. Dee has mentioned before how people assume she is Kay's mother even though they look so different. Kay is half Aboriginal and took most of his features from his mother. Here's the issue though, I am in love with Dee. When she first started living with me, we would talk about people we were seeing, I would talk about my dates, and after the twins, she would talk about hers. About a year ago, I don't know, I just sort of stopped going on dates and she hasn't mentioned any on her end. I don't like imagining her going on dates with other men, and the idea of her finally moving out is scary to me. I like having her around, like talking to her, looking at her, and when she's not around, I wish she was here. I love Elle and M, and their happiness, along with my son's, is paramount to me. The only romantic things I can think of is on New Year's, she kissed me. She was drunk and we were at a friend's party. I didn't and don't drink. About a year ago, I got hurt at work and was bedridden for a week. She was so caring, bringing me food, sitting and talking with me throughout the day, and treating me so sweetly. I know I don't have a history of healthy relationships and am worried I could be misreading things or just projecting my idea of a happy relationship. My therapist says I need to take chances at allowing myself to be happy, but what if it makes things weird between us? So I am asking for the advice of people. What do I tell her? Should I tell her? Also sorry for the rambling. I'm in love with my sister-in-law but am worried about what to do or say as I have no real history of healthy relationships.